The heavy courtroom doors slammed shut with a finality that echoed through the marble halls. Spouses cannot both enter as counsel in this proceeding, the bailiff stated flatly, his eyes avoiding theirs. Avery Thompson gripped her wife Rose's hand tighter, their wedding rings glinting under the fluorescent lights as their biggest case. And their marriage hung in the balance in the heart of Chicago's judicial system. The air in the federal courthouse anteroom felt thick with the scent of polished wood and old paper. Avery, a 34-year-old litigator with sharp cheekbones and a reputation for never backing down, stared at the closed doors in disbelief. She and Rose had spent months preparing for this civil rights hearing, representing a group of workers suing their employer for systemic discrimination. It was supposed to be their breakthrough case, the one that would cement their status as the go-to-power couple at Thompson and Hale, the prestigious downtown firm. Instead, here they stood dressed in matching charcoal suits, briefcases in hand, only to be turned away because, according to some dusty local rule, spouses could not jointly appear as counsel in the same matter. The rule had been dusted off and weaponized against them. The bailiff, a middle-aged man with a name tag reading Officer Harlan, mumbled something about conflict of interest, but his discomfort was obvious. This was not about impartiality. This was about them being two women married to each other. Rose, 32, with soft blonde waves pinned back professionally and a calmer demeanor that often balanced Avery's fire, squeezed her hand back. "We prepared together for 6 months," she said, her voice steady but edged with frustration. "Our client expects both of us in there today." Harlan shrugged. "Policy is policy, ma'am. You can appeal to the judge, but right now only one of you goes in." Avery felt heat rise in her chest. This was not some technicality. It was the same prejudice they had fought since law school at Harvard, where they met in a constitutional law seminar. Rose had been the quiet, brilliant student from a conservative Georgia family, who quoted Supreme Court precedents like poetry. Avery, the driven New Yorker, had challenged every professor and fallen hard for Rose's quiet strength. Their love had grown through late-night study sessions, shared apartments, and the terrifying moment when Avery proposed on a snowy bench in Boston Common 3 years ago. They married in Massachusetts, the first state to legalize same-sex marriage, knowing full well that not everyone would celebrate. Rose's parents had attended the wedding, but the silence from her father spoke volumes. Avery's own mother, a high-powered executive, had toasted them proudly but warned that the world outside progressive circles would not be kind. Now that warning rang true. Avery turned to Rose. "We don't split up." "Not now." Rose nodded, though her eyes showed the flicker of doubt that had haunted their marriage lately, the fear that their careers might demand sacrifices neither wanted to name. They marched back to the clerk's office, filed an immediate objection, and waited while the court buzzed around them. Phones rang, reporters already sniffing the story because word traveled fast in legal circles. By the time they left the building 2 hours later, without entering the courtroom, their client had been forced to proceed with only junior counsel. The humiliation burned. That evening, in their sleek Lincoln Park apartment with floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the lake, Avery paced while Rose poured wine. "This isn't just about today," Avery said. "It's about every time someone looks at us and sees a problem instead of professionals." Rose set the glasses down. "I know, but fighting this could cost us everything at the firm. Our partnership track. The cases we love." Avery stopped. "Or it could change the rules for good." They sat together on the couch, hands intertwined, replaying the day. The internal conflict gnawed at Avery. Was she pushing too hard because of pride or because she truly believed in justice? Rose wondered if standing by her wife meant risking the stability her family still questioned. As night fell, they made a quiet vow. They would not let this slide. The fight had just begun and the price was already climbing. The next morning, headlines appeared on legal blogs. Married lesbian lawyers denied court access in Chicago federal case. Calls poured in from allies and critics. Avery's phone buzzed with a message from her mother. "Proud of you, but be careful, honey." Rose's father left a voicemail. "This is what happens when you choose that life, Rose. Come home and think it over." The pressure settled like a weight on their shoulders, but in that moment, holding each other, they felt the spark of something stronger: resolve. Little did they know the denial was only the opening act in a drama that would test their love, their careers, and the very system they had sworn to uphold. Back at the firm later that afternoon, the partners gathered in the glass-walled conference room overlooking the Chicago River. Senior partner Marcus Hale, a silver-haired man who had mentored both women, leaned forward. "This is unfortunate, but we need to contain it. One of you steps back on the case." Avery crossed her arms. That is exactly what they want, Marcus. To make us choose. Rose sat beside her silent, but her fingers tapped the table, a tell of inner turmoil. The room filled with murmurs. Colleagues who had toasted their wedding now avoided eye contact. One junior associate whispered about reputation damage. The betrayal stung deeper than the courtroom door. That night Rose's phone rang. It was her mother in Georgia, voice trembling. "Honey, I saw the news. Your father is furious. He says this marriage is ruining your future. Come visit us. We can talk." Rose hung up, tears in her eyes. She had always been the peacemaker, the one who sent birthday cards and visited despite the awkward silences about her wife. Avery pulled her close. "We built this life together. Don't let them tear it down." But inside Avery wrestled with guilt. Had her ambition dragged Rose into a spotlight that exposed old family wounds? Rose had given up a safer path at a smaller firm to join her here. Now every headline reminded her of the cost. The following week they filed a formal motion challenging the spouse's rule as discriminatory. Legal research filled their dining table late into the night. Avery researched precedents while Rose drafted arguments with her meticulous precision. Their love showed in small ways, Avery making coffee at 2 a.m., Rose rubbing her shoulders. Yet tension grew. During one argument Avery snapped, "If we back down now, what kind of example are we?" Rose replied quietly, "The kind that stays employed." The moral dilemma loomed. Was fighting for principle worth endangering their livelihood and the clients who relied on them? Media attention exploded. A local TV station requested interviews. Supporters from the LGBT Bar Association offered help, but anonymous emails arrived calling them agenda pushers. At a firm happy hour, a senior associate who once praised their teamwork pulled Avery aside. "Look, some clients are nervous about the optics. Maybe tone it down." The betrayal cut deep. This colleague had attended their wedding. Now he saw them as liabilities. Rose overheard, and later in the car home she whispered, "Maybe we are asking too much of the world." Avery gripped the wheel. Or maybe the world needs to catch up. Rose's family pressure intensified. Her brother called. "Dad had a mild heart scare. He blames the stress from your choices. Visit before it's too late." Rose booked a flight, conflicted. Avery supported her but felt the distance growing. Alone in the apartment, Avery stared at their wedding photo, questioning if her drive for justice was selfish. When Rose returned from Georgia, pale and quiet, the story she shared broke Avery's heart. Her father had refused to say her wife's name. The internal awakening began. They realized their marriage was not just personal, it was political, and every choice carried weight. They decided to press forward, hiring an outside civil rights attorney to help. The case against the court rule was now their own. Sacrifices mounted. They lost a major corporate client who cited publicity concerns. Yet in quiet moments holding each other they found strength. The drama was building, and the system that rejected them would soon face its reckoning. The first hearing on their motion took place in a smaller courtroom 3 weeks later. Avery and Rose sat side by side as their new counsel argued that the spouse's prohibition was rooted in outdated assumptions about heterosexual marriage and applied selectively to punish same-sex couples. The judge, a stern woman in her 50s, listened, but her questions revealed skepticism. What if this opens the floodgates for every married pair? Rose took notes, her mind racing with counterpoints, but when Avery leaned over to whisper strategy, the judge snapped. "Counselors, no conferring at the table." The subtle humiliation fueled their fire. Outside the courthouse, reporters swarmed. One shouted, "Is this personal or professional, ladies?" Avery answered calmly, "Both. Justice should not depend on who you love." Back at the firm, the atmosphere had turned toxic. Marcus called them into his office. "A senior partner leaked details of your internal emails to opposing counsel in the original case. We are facing ethics complaints." Rose paled. "Who?" Marcus hesitated, then named their former ally, the associate who had warned them about optics. The betrayal landed like a punch. He had pretended support while undermining them for firm politics. Avery stormed out, fists clenched. Rose followed her into the elevator, tears streaming. How can people we trusted do this? That evening they confronted the traitor at a bar near the office. He shrugged. "Business is business. You two made it political." Avery stepped forward. "Our marriage is not a business decision." The confrontation left them drained but united. Later Rose confessed her deepest fear. What if we lose everything, the career, the respect, even us? Avery held her. Then we rebuild together. The moral conflict raged inside both. Avery questioned if her aggression had invited the backlash. Rose wondered if staying silent earlier would have spared them pain. Family calls worsened it. Rose's mother sent photos of a family reunion without her. Avery's mother offered money for legal fees but urged caution. The psychological toll showed in sleepless nights and sharp words between them. Yet the appeal gained traction. A national LGBT rights organization joined as amicus. Public support poured in, online petition signatures from lawyers across the country. They appeared on a morning show, Rose speaking eloquently about equality, Avery adding passion. The visibility brought new cases but also death threats filtered by their security. One night after a particularly vicious online attack, Rose broke down. "I love you, but sometimes I wonder if we should have kept our heads down." Avery kissed her forehead. "And let them win." No. The awakening was mutual. They saw that fighting meant losing pieces of themselves, friends, comfort, security, but gaining a purpose larger than one courtroom. The case moved to federal appeal court. Tension rose as depositions revealed the rule had never been applied to straight married couples in similar situations. Proof of bias mounted. The price was high, but so was the stake. Their love, tested by fire, grew deeper even as the drama threatened to consume them. Public scrutiny intensified as the appeal headed to the Seventh Circuit. Paparazzi waited outside their building. Tabloids ran headlines questioning their professionalism. At the firm, clients pulled out one by one. Marcus warned, "One more loss and we may have to let you go." The threat hung heavy. Rose spent hours on the phone reassuring nervous families while Avery buried herself in briefs. Their once vibrant evenings of wine and laughter turned into strategy sessions laced with exhaustion. One argument escalated when Avery accused Rose of wavering. "You always want the safe path." Rose shot back. "And you never see the cost until it's too late." They slept on opposite sides of the bed that night, the silence louder than any courtroom gavel. Rose's family crisis peaked when her father was hospitalized. She flew south alone despite Avery's offer to join. At the hospital, her mother whispered, "He asks why you chose this fight over us." Rose sat by his bed holding his hand, conflicted. She loved her family, but her life with Avery was her truth. Returning to Chicago, she found Avery had handled a critical filing alone. Gratitude mixed with resentment. The moral dilemma deepened. Was their stand destroying the very support system they needed? Avery faced her own awakening during a solo run along the lake. She realized her drive came from childhood, watching her single mother fight sexism in corporate America. Now she was repeating the pattern, risking her marriage. That night they reconciled with tears and promises. "We choose each other first." The betrayal from the firm escalated. Marcus proposed they take a leave of absence to avoid conflict. They refused, sparking a heated board meeting where old allies voted against them. One partner who had been at their wedding abstained, saying nothing. The isolation felt complete. Yet external support grew. A coalition of women lawyers filed briefs. Media coverage turned sympathetic, featuring their story as emblem of broader reform. They attended a pride event hand in hand, drawing strength from the crowd. Rose spoke movingly about invisible barriers. Avery watched pride swelling. The personal sacrifices mounted, lost income strained friendships, but the bond between them strengthened. Internal doubts lingered. Avery questioned if victory would heal the wounds. Rose wondered if the system could truly change or if they were naive. A key hearing loomed. They prepared, relentlessly reviewing every precedent. The night before, Avery found Rose crying over old family photos. "I missed them, but I want to apologize for us." Avery held her. "Then we make them see." The drama reached new heights when an anonymous source leaked medical records, twisting Rose's family stress into ammunition against their stability. They sued for privacy violation, adding another layer. Exhaustion set in, but so did clarity. Their choices, though painful, were necessary. The appeal court date arrived with national attention. As they entered the building side by side, the weight of every decision pressed down, but their hands remained linked. The system was watching, and they were ready to force it to blink. The Seventh Circuit hearing unfolded in a packed courtroom under bright lights. Their counsel presented evidence of selective enforcement, showing straight couples had appeared together without issue for decades. The judges, 3 of them, grilled both sides. One conservative jurist pressed, "Does this not undermine judicial neutrality?" Rose stood during rebuttal, her voice clear. Neutrality means equal application, not exclusion based on identity. Avery watched with pride but inside battled anxiety. A loss here could end their careers. The session stretched 3 hours, leaving them drained. Outside supporters cheered but opposing counsel smirked, hinting at higher appeal. Back home the emotional toll peaked. Avery received a letter from the Bar Association questioning their ethics based on the leaked emails. Rose faced a call from her brother. Dad says if you drop this he will reconcile. The temptation was real. They argued again, this time deeper. Avery admitted, I pushed us here because I was scared of being seen as weak. Rose confessed, I stayed silent too long, fearing rejection. The reconciliation was raw, honest tears and renewed vows. They chose to continue no matter the cost. The betrayal from within the legal community continued when a former professor publicly criticized their case as frivolous. Yet new allies emerged, young lawyers inspired by their stand. Public pressure mounted. Petitions reached 50,000 signatures. A documentary crew requested access. They agreed, hoping to humanize the fight. Filming captured intimate moments of doubt and strength, but also the strain. One scene showed them canceling a planned vacation because of depositions. The sacrifice was tangible. Rose's health suffered stress-induced migraines. Avery's temper flared at minor setbacks. Yet each night they found comfort in each other, sharing stories of early days at Harvard, laughing through tears. The moral questions haunted them. Was it right to drag their families into the spotlight? Did the greater good justify private pain? Awakening came during a quiet walk in Millennium Park. They realized true justice required personal courage, even when it hurt. The circuit court ruled in their favor but stayed the decision pending possible Supreme Court review. Celebration was muted. The firm issued a lukewarm statement of support, while quietly reassigning their cases. Marcus offered reinstatement with conditions, dropped the publicity. They refused. The drama intensified as the Department of Justice expressed interest in the broader implications. National news outlets camped outside their door. Through it all their love endured, tested but unbroken. Internal conflicts resolved into shared purpose. They had paid dearly in relationships and security but gained clarity. The final battle loomed and they entered it united, ready to see the system rewrite its own rules. The Supreme Court granted certiorari 4 months later. Oral arguments in Washington, D.C. drew crowds and cameras. Avery and Rose sat in the gallery, hands clasped as their counsel delivered a powerful defense of equality under the law. The justices' questions cut deep, one asking about potential chaos if all spouses could co-counsel. Their team countered with data showing no such issues in states without the rule. Rose whispered to Avery during a break, "We have come so far." Avery nodded, eyes fierce. "And we finish it." The session ended with tension thick in the air. Weeks of waiting followed. They returned to Chicago, working reduced hours at a new, smaller firm that welcomed them. Family relations thawed slightly. Rose's father sent a card without apology, but with a photo of them as children. Avery's mother visited, bringing support and stories of her own battles. The betrayals faded as new professional doors opened. Yet the personal cost remained visible in quieter moments, the missed holidays, the strained friendships. They reflected often on the journey, the confrontations, the doubts, the growth. Their marriage, stronger now, carried the scars of battle, but also the glow of shared triumph. The ruling came on a crisp fall morning. In a unanimous decision, the court struck down the spouse's prohibition as violative of equal protection, finding it rooted in bias rather than legitimate interest. The opinion cited their case as catalyst, mandating nationwide review and rewrite of judicial family participation rules. Headlines blared, "Lesbian lawyers' victory forces systemic overhaul." Celebrations erupted in their apartment, champagne and tears. Colleagues who had distanced themselves sent congratulations. The firm offered full partnership back. But Avery and Rose chose to open their own practice focused on civil rights. Standing on the steps of the Supreme Court weeks later for photos, they held each other tightly. The wind whipped the flag overhead, mirroring the day of denial, but now with victory. Avery turned to Rose. "We did it." Rose smiled through tears. "At what cost?" The question lingered as they flew home, reflecting on every sacrifice, the family rifts, the lost allies, the nights of doubt. Their awakening was complete. They had changed the system but recognized the human price. Friends from the community hailed them heroes, yet some whispered about the families left behind. In the end, they knew their choices were right for them, but the debate raged on. When personal love challenges institutional bias, do the ends of systemic reform justify the personal devastation left in its wake, or should some boundaries between heart and law remain sacred?